to Bloody Good Horror.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be reviewing a chipper movie called His House. It's like beautiful, wonderful Christmas, happy time viewing for you and your family. I'll be your host for this evening. Joining me tonight, first up, special guest this evening, coming to us from Canada. I would describe this person as a lovable stickler. Please welcome Adam to the show.
So glad to be here.
Also wearing an eye patch.
Straight off the Jolly Roger.
Yeah.
Yes. Look at me. Just the one eye. I'm the captain now.
Next up on the show, bringing just a beautiful hair flip tonight. I don't know, we're kind of somewhere between Duke Grad and Puddle of Mud Singer, which... you know, I like it. He's experimenting a little bit. He's fluid, is what I'm trying to say. Please welcome the business manager of Bloody Good Horror, Mr. John Schnars, to the show.
Hello, Eric. It's a spectrum.
That's all the rage with the kids today, John, being fluid, you know?
Yeah.
I think we're going to talk about that later, actually, when we get to the second half of the show. And last up tonight, as long as we're talking about looks, this dude just straight up looks like Jerry Garcia these days. He's coming to us from Indiana. Please welcome the wild, woolly man of BGH, Mr. Casey.
Hello.
Casey, what is the longest guitar solo you've ever played on acid?
Well, I think it was Indianapolis in 1989.
Ah, very nice.
At least so they tell me.
I
He
love
had
it.
an answer.
Dude,
It's remarkably specific.
you never know what I'm going to ask you, Adam. You always have to have an answer.
Now, it is funny, though, because I have that big music amphitheater like a mile down the road where you have bands where Grateful Dead used to play. And like for our first year in this house, I watched the police arrest a hippie in my backyard.
And you've dreamed of looking like that, man?
I have. It set something in motion.
Poor hippies. They're not trying to hurt anybody.
I know, but this is a small Indiana town. They're scary.
It's squatting in your lawn.
It's still 1965 there. Okay, they're afraid of hippies. I get it. This is normally the point of the show that I toss to Joe to do a beer, but we don't have a beer. Adam, you have like some smart thing you want to say or something?
There is an Ottawa brewery that was doing a buck of beer for refugee causes. I think you can just look up buck of beer if you were in Ottawa, Canada. I know that there's other causes you could look for across the states for donations for refugees. So that'd be like a cool thing you could do and tie it to beer.
Has an answer. I like it. Also, the way you say Ottawa is delightful.
Yeah.
It's
I was actually. Could we just get
wonderful.
like a generalized like Canada? How you doing? Check-in right now? Because I feel like
we're a little self-absorbed these days in America.
well, it's been a very traumatic couple of
years.
I don't know, years.
4 years. Yeah. 5 if you count the lead up.
I feel like there was a point where Canada was just like, we're done with you all because of the pandemic, and maybe that's still happening.
As they should.
Do you feel different toward the Americans?
Adam, what John is trying to say is, how's Canada?
Yeah.
I will speak for the second largest country on earth, and let me tell you.
Well,
that's the important thing is the size. But yeah, no, in terms of how Canada feels about America, border's still closed. We're pretty scared of the COVID stuff. Most people seem to be pretty jazzed about Kamala, even with her weird prison record. But people are pretty jazzed, you know.
For the record, she's never been to prison. I just want to make sure we say that.
Oh, no. She
okay.
just sent a bunch of people there. I wasn't saying she's ever been to prison.
Semantics.
But yeah, no,
I
people are
do
pretty
like
excited
that.
about Grandpa Biden, I think.
Yeah,
You know,
sure.
he's just
You know,
an
grandpas are cool sometimes.
old man that probably did some bad stuff, but you know, whatever.
Adam, what old man
Nope.
hasn't done bad stuff? Like, it's a sliding scale, bro.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
true. Damn.
Yeah.
We should kill the old. Okay.
Wait, and what's the status of COVID up there? You still have COVID in?
Yeah. So it's dependent on
They're having a
which.
huge spike.
Yeah, depends on which region you're in. So if you're in Ontario, it's pretty bad right now. We had the Atlantic bubble, which was just kind of like a group of the like really eastern provinces that had really low rates. But New Brunswick messed it up. So now we've got a little higher. There are two islands that
Fucking
we
New
have
Brunswick,
kind of that just,
always screwing things up. That place where that is that I know.
gosh. New Brunswick's the worst.
Yeah.
Let's all agree on that. It's the Vermont of the North.
Oh.
No.
Vermont's okay. It's pretty. They have legal weed there. The
Everywhere has legal weed.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
ladies and men can marry each other. I don't know. It's kind of cool. I like it.
We just legalized it. Well, actually, you guys, Oregon's kicking our ass on just like legalizing everything. They're just like death and MDMA, and they're just like jumping ahead of us.
Legal weed is the best. Like, I can't go back to not knowing what I'm buying. Like, I want to know the fucking Wikipedia page of what I'm buying. I can't go back. I'm sorry. All right.
Well,
We're-
thank you. No, I appreciate the.
Yes, thank you, Adam.
How you doing? Check in.
It's
Very
time,
helpful.
guys. It is time. Let's take a quick break so that we can talk about his house. That's just not playing. All right, stand by. And we're back. John Schnars.
Eric.
Do we, like about 4 years ago, I don't remember what happened back then, but that was kind of when I started my whole thread about how words had lost all meaning. Around the time we started being collectively gaslit as a nation every single day.
Yeah, it's still not good for words, I would say.
Well, that's how I wanted to get it. As long as
In the
we've checked in
meaning.
with Canada, can we check in with words now?
Yeah. Still pretty bad.
Still not good. Okay.
No.
Well
We'll
then,
see.
why don't you help us out, John, by
Okay.
bringing us the word of the day.
Eric, today's word, refugee.
Jesus Christ, John.
He did it. He did it.
You lazy bastard.
Guys, as you know, I did not have a lot of time to prepare.
Adam, you're
but look,
you're smart, Adam. You could have stopped this, and you chose not to.
no. Hey, come on. We asked for a word. Yeah, Adam had a good suggestion, but I still feel this is a fine selection.
Something
Because,
something
look,
about
it
it's
has-
not about the evil men, it's about the men that don't stop them. Like that's what I'm trying to say.
Refugee has a very specific definition. I feel like I don't know if people might not sort of realize exactly
Yeah, okay.
where it comes from or what it means. A person who has been forced to leave their country in order to escape war, persecution, or natural disaster. Did you know that, Eric? Was that that's like new information, or you're processing it?
Literally none of that is new information to me
Mm.
because
Well-
I've watched the news more than twice.
It comes to
Eric,
us.
I read newspapers, John. I don't know if you know this.
I have a fun legal thing after you're done about it.
Good. No, see, this is that. This would be great.
This is why I love
honestly.
Adam, because he just unironically used the phrase "fun legal thing"
Well, so
and believed it with
and
all his
I'm actually
heart.
very curious to hear it because I do think there's like you can call someone a refugee, but there's like a specific. It does have it has legal weight to it. So in any event, Adam, one sec. It comes to us from the French. Maybe you knew this already. The verb say refugier. I don't know. I always go with Spanish pronunciation, which I realize is useless in French. It's a verb that means to seek refuge, which I don't know. It's pretty on the nose, I guess, but here we are.
All right, John. Tell me about this movie.
Well, hold on. Do we want the?
Oh, I'm
legal
sorry. I'm sorry, Adam.
check-in here?
Adam, give me
I'll
your
just-
fun
I'll-
legal
I'll-
thing.
I'll really quickly just say, because it's a really complicated issue, but basically there's kind of two statuses of refugeeism. So there's like an amount of refugees that a country will accept, and usually they set a metric for how many that'll be a year. Canada has, for the last few years, tried to set the record for the most allowed into the country per capita. but generally it's basically decided by the nation how many they can accept without overflowing the population and having issues. And then there is also a second stage of refugee, which is that they will not send you back to a country where you have been so persecuted that it would offend or shock the conscience of the nation to allow you to go back.
Right, and that's
So it's
usually where
kind of-
the gray area is, right? Because they can argue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the 1945, it was kind of basically called the like Holocaust Nazi test, which is like you wouldn't send a Jewish person back to Germany during that time, and that was determined obviously after the fact. But it's a really high bar, and what ended up happening was when Trump came into office, a bunch of lawyers all around the world, including in Canada, did a bunch of research to send across to the States to have as much research prepared as possible to fight every time Trump would, make a ridiculous argument for ICE. So that's why a lot of the federal courts came back with these decisions that blocked a lot of the deportations early on, was that lawyers just like spent a bunch of their time trying to block all of these ridiculous claims that made no sense. But it's a really high bar for that, like, shock the conscience. I think the last one I read about was in China, and they literally hung a person upside down in a locker and electric shocked him for 4 days. So high bar.
I'll tell
you don't want to be there.
I'll tell you.
Like, because that happened, they let that person stay.
Yeah, they basically said, we cannot send you back to that nation. Whereas the bar can shift. So if you, for example, were part of an ethnic minority that was being persecuted and then things changed, they might send that person back, even though the same sentiments might still exist there. So, for example, there were refugees from Pakistan who were homosexuals that came to Canada. And there have been other groups.
What about if your government doesn't have a conscience and doesn't believe that a conscience could be shocked? No, that's a joke. That's not, we don't have to.
Well,
yeah,
explore that
no, it's
more deeply.
I was gonna say it's a difficult one because like failed states also aren't normally acknowledged for allowing refugeeism. So there was a lot of conflict around Somalia. I don't want to. I don't want to get into it.
I'll tell you this much,
Anyway,
Adam.
yeah.
I haven't had that much fun in weeks.
I thought it was so
thank
much
you.
fun. Gee willikers.
John,
Get ready
I was
for the
gonna
rest
say-
of what?
Let's talk about something breezier.
I was going to
like
say,
this
John, let's get even lighter. Why don't you tell me about his house?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it sounds like Adam might have a little bit more background on some of what's going on. So his house, this is a movie produced, at least from what I saw in the credits, in collaboration with the BBC. BBC Movies was like credited in the beginning, but it is on Netflix. This was, as far as I know, a sort of straight to Netflix situation. Director here is a guy named Remy Weeks. Does not, I mean, very thin IMDb page. So if anyone knows anything else about Mr. Weeks, speak up. But the plot here is basically a couple, Bol and Rial. They are refugees escaping South Sudan. And we essentially follow them as they're arriving in London and sort of going through the processing of that situation, and sort of seeing what it looks like. I mean, they're in detention, then they're allowed out, but they're given all these restrictions. They're sort of given a home, but it's, dicey-ish. And what we see is that they begin to experience, let's say, a haunting. The movie's called His House. Like, you can probably piece together what this starts to look like. But clearly they are dealing with sort of grief, trauma, PTSD, sort of everything that you can imagine around their experience, which we see somewhat in flashback and snippets here and there. There's a daughter that we see that they've lost during that, process. And so it's this just like mixture of everything they've gone through in their lives, this specific loss, and the story that begins to sort of unfold around why they're being haunted around it. I don't know. So that's the like specific plot. I mean, I really, I wish I had time, and I probably will try to read a little bit more about this movie because it is very pointed and specific in the depiction that we get here. So
yeah, and we should say too that There's definitely some like reveal type stuff. Like we're gonna have to talk about, I think, towards in a little bit here to kind of really dig into the meaning of this movie. But we'll hold off for a few minutes. Adam, what do you think?
I love this movie. I can't tell if it's my number one, but it's going to be up there. I've got a bunch of other movies that I have to finish off, but I really enjoyed this. I think we're going to bring it up, and we can maybe talk and compare this to Bad Hair in some ways, just because I think what this film does is it hits its issues. It's a very short film. It's only an hour and 25 with 7 minutes of credits. But it feels like it is thoroughly, entrenched in the issues. It gives us, various perspectives. You get this domestic violence kind of plot line that comes into the story. The name His House has like a double meaning, obviously, because not only is it like the house of, well, we'll, I guess, explain there's this witch that has followed them over. And so not only is the idea that it is the witch's house, but also it is his house. And the main character keeps making it clear, no, this is my house. And he's kind of asserting that onto his wife character. But there are so many like rich visual metaphors. I think like the fork and knife is one of my favorite things. Just like the wife continues to want to use her hands because that's like traditionally how you'd eat like that type of meal, and he insists on going and getting her a fork and knife. You see him like eating with the fork and knife pointedly when they're in a fight, just to like demonstrate that he is assimilating and he is
right. It's a lot about the struggle between the two of them of assimilating versus not, and like giving up their identity.
Yeah, I really think it's like a fantastically effectively acted film. I think it's one of the best acted films of the year. And one of the things I read was that the director gave them a lot of leeway when it came to like long shots and letting them improvise. And you don't see as much improvisation when it comes to dramatic films, but I really think it hit hard here. And I think some more people will say things about like some of the little poignant moments that become very scary, even though you're like, well, that's just a mundane thing that happens. But it becomes so much more like off-putting and weird and terrifying because it's coming from that perspective of someone who's afraid to break the law, someone who's afraid to, fail one of their conditions, someone who like doesn't trust to go up to people and ask for directions even because they're not as fluent in English.
Yeah, I mean, some of the scary stuff is just her, specifically the wife, out trying to navigate the world and like just what she's encountering.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's my short opinion. I really like it.
Casey.
So I will start out by saying I like this movie a lot. I thought it was really well made. I thought it was really well acted. I will say also, though, that being in the mindset I was today when I sat down to watch it, I had a really hard time connecting to it because this is a very, very bleak movie. I think it's one you definitely have to have your expectations in place and stuff like that, but it's still a well-made movie. That's not to say it's crap or anything like that. It's just, for me, it was like, oh, this is just rough, and it's something hard to connect to at that time. You feel for the characters, Ball and Real. You feel really bad for them. You feel what they're going through. They do a good job of conveying that. Once you get into the creepy stuff, I enjoyed it more just because you're getting more monsters and stuff, so it's easier to connect to that. But at the same time, their monster work and stuff in this movie, pretty solid. These night witches and things that we see creeping around this house were pretty dang creepy. And some of the sequences later on, when you get into those horror sequences, when they were the standout for me is when they were messing with the light switches. And they'd go back and forth to when you'd see lights come on. The lights go off, you'd see Bull getting attacked. Lights go on, things would disappear. And I thought that was fascinating how they framed that. I thought that was really good. So overall, I'd say good flick.
Yeah, this is a super well-made movie that I absolutely never want to watch again. It reminds me in that way of something like Nightingale, where it's just like harrowing to watch, beautifully made, really well acted, and brutal to sit through. Like, I don't know, I think John maybe knew that I was going to be spending Thanksgiving alone and just really wanted to just drill down on me here by making me watch this 2 days before. But I it is so dark and so bleak, both in tone and like the palette that it uses and just everything, right? The two lead actors are fantastic. One of my favorite things about it is that it recontextualizes one of my least favorite things, which is the modern haunted house movie. And it is a lot of the same tropes, but taking place inside of basically this like rundown refugee like hovel that they've been given to live in. And so the place in itself is spooky, and it's like I just keep thinking about this. It's like the artifice of a home, but it's not a home, right? Like he keeps calling it his home, and she kind of looks around, and it's the house in itself is a ghost. Like you don't know what has happened there. It does not feel alive or warm in any way, or permanent or anything. Like it's just the home is like its own evil character or something in this. Like beyond even the it's like sinister, this place they live in. But because of that recontextualization and then the cultural things that they're filtering through it, I enjoyed a lot of these tropes a lot more because you're just seeing somebody do something different with it, right? Just like the everyday stuff you're seeing, like they're obviously contrasting the horror of just these people trying to live their lives in this foreign place, the horror of what they escaped, and then this growing divide between the two of them. That and I loved the wife in particular because she just like as a character has so much conviction, and you don't know why. Like you think you know why, and then the movie slowly kind of starts leading you to believe like there's obviously more to the story that we don't know yet. And then it tells you, and you're like, fuck me, dude. That's the fucking worst thing I've ever seen in my life. God damn it. I would also say, not to open a can of worms, but this is a very thematically dense movie with a lot of plot that tells its story very cleanly in 90 minutes. So I'm just saying it's possible. Bad hair is all I'm saying. It's great. And I don't know who I would recommend it to. Like I conditionally recommend this movie to anyone, I think. But it's really well made.
Did you want me to give an opinion? I mean, there's only three of us, but somehow I got.
Do you want me to answer that honestly?
You son of a bitch.
Go ahead, John.
No, look, like you guys hit a lot of stuff. I would say. I mean, the things I guess I would emphasize are. It's not that it's like a wholly unique thing to explore someone's grief and sort of trauma through the lens of horror. I mean, that's like you could probably boil a large portion of horror movies down to that. But as I was saying, sort of when I was rambling about the movie, the specificity that they bring to this is so valuable. It feels like a wholly realized and therefore believable backstory or narrative arc that really starts with their lives before the sort of outbreak of genocide or conflict or what have you. They don't. There's not like a lot of spoon feeding you that background either. I mean,
which I liked.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, you read the newspaper every day, so like you probably understood.
But like, listen, I can figure out war and refugees. Like,
yes,
of course, there's always more to it, but at its core, we're talking about just fucked up human shit, and like you don't need a lot to understand that.
No, totally, and that's why I was saying to Adam before, like I'm glad he had. Someone had read up a little bit enough to know exactly what the reference point was for the conflict or the genocide they were representing, where these folks were refugees from, because like I did not want to get on here and be like, oh, they're African refugees in London like that, because they clearly brought so much attention. The filmmakers, Remy Weeks, writer and director here. So yeah, I mean, that is, and Eric, you kind of hit it. Like that's what takes this thing above or beyond being just a scary, spooky house, haunted house type of situation to something that just feels really original. Like it asks you to like look at things in a different way. Even like there's almost no scare that happens in this movie that you haven't seen probably 3, 4, 5 times. I mean, that we haven't seen 50 times, but I still found this super impactful. And as Eric, as you mentioned, it's like emotionally wrenching. I mean, Casey sort of said, like,
dude.
to the point of like, I did not. I actually would say I really enjoyed this, even though I was like not not in a great headspace to be watching it. It was cathartic. I think it ends on enough of an up note, even one that's a little
Yeah, kind of.
ambiguous.
I
But
liked
it's
I
I don't know,
liked the
it's really well
ambiguity
done.
of that part. Yeah, I mean it's interesting because it's like visually there are visually stunning moments, but it's intentionally visually drab throughout a lot of it, but still kind of arresting to like look at. I feel like, but what happens is that then when they turn it on, it really punctuates these moments. Like the one that stuck out to me is where he is sitting eating dinner by himself, and he basically has a vision where he is all of a sudden
Excuse me.
we zoom out and he's floating. He's at his table in this kitchen vignette, floating on the ocean. Because there's a lot of imagery and symbolism around the ocean, because obviously like they would have had to have made like a dangerous journey on the ocean, and we learn more about that later. But the visuals of this water that he's on is just like completely just sublime to
Yeah.
look at.
Well, that
Really, that same effect, like you're talking about, with the way they jump back and forth with those visuals, is about the same stark in contrast as the light switch gag they were using.
yeah. I was gonna say, like, I think a lot of in other hands, those moments where you are basically being pulled into like a fantastical space where whether it's the light switch stuff and there's things happening around him that are kind of like flickering on and off, or that moment where he's out on the ocean in lesser hands, like that stuff feels cheap, or it doesn't carry that same weight. I think too, because of the sort of the way that the story unfolds around this concept of the witch, and sort of the fact that you can't trust them as sort of narrators, not necessarily the right term, but like they become untrustworthy. Their own experiences of the world become untrustworthy.
Mm.
It's it's a very, I mean, Eric, you hit on this earlier. It's super tight, right? Like the script here is super well put together.
Yeah.
Because
And
again,
it's
like these mechanics have failed in other places.
it
I
is
guess,
doing
what I'm
such
trying
a
to say.
good job of giving a ton of nuance too on their lives as refugees, but in ways that's still super relevant to the plot, right? Like sometimes these movies I think get too bogged down in the stuff in the plot stuff, or like they're missing the forest for the trees or something. But like scenes as subtle as it's all very ambiguous in a way that I find really, for me, appealing because I like movies like that, right? Like the guy who is their kind of, I don't even know what you call him, their like sponsor, or like the guy at the refugee office, right, who gives them the
Yeah,
apartment.
the Doctor Who guy.
He has
Isn't that him?
he has empathy for them, but
Yeah.
also treats them at times in a kind of like condescending way, right? So like it goes both ways. Like this movie presupposes that all of this stuff that they're talking about, this cultural stuff, like witches and this specific cultural idea of evil, like it all exists. And then the guys in the office like telling him about the witch or something, and like the guy's like, look dude, if you want to keep, like, are you okay, like, if you lost your mind, you know what I mean? And in reality, like, anybody would kind of have that reaction, right? But we know sort of in that movie sense that something is happening. But in that same sense, like, so like it's relevant to the plot, but they're also showing you the ways that these people are treated and the kind of things that they had to go through have to go through on a daily basis to just cling to trying to create this new life. It's not just like people show up and it's like, cool, got a new life. It's like you finish one struggle and now you're in the middle of another one that is completely foreign to you.
Well,
Yeah.
and what I liked is it wasn't. They could have made this movie a lot more about basically just like racism. Like it could have been.
Well, that's my
They're being
point, is like
discriminated against.
it's there
Yeah.
It is there, but it's actually
in a really well
what I-
balanced way.
what I'm trying to agree with is that like it's actually more about like the horrors of being a refugee. Like Adam mentioned,
Yeah.
like the constraints that they're put around. Like there was a moment where they're like, yeah, you get 74 pounds a week. I think that was the number, and I legit was like, wait, what? Like you can't, living in London for 74 pounds a week for two people, you can't work. Like you're just not allowed to work. I mean, those are like,
Yeah.
I don't want to say dehumanizing. It is pretty close to dehumanizing. I mean, so being part of a genocide is more dehumanizing, arguably. But like that's I think the point that the movie's trying to make is like they're, and you sort of said it, like they're escaping one awful situation and landing in a situation that's objectively an improvement, but still not
just awful in
And-
different ways. Like they're physically safer, but not totally or psychologically, obviously.
And I think some of the interesting like racist dynamics weren't as explained but were very effective. So like when he was walking by and the guy goes like, "Hey, are you one of those refugees? Come get your church, package that we've put together."
Right, and you
Like
don't
on
know if
one
you're supposed to
face
be
you might
afraid.
go, "Well, that's really nice. They're putting together things for this group." But like really it's this like, "Oh, well, it's the church. They're probably trying to get you in." And then they also are like, "Hey, we have to do this charity for you
But I
because
think it's-
you have suffered."
But I think it's more pointed than that, though, because just the moment of the guy saying, "Hey, are you one of those refugees?" Like,
Yeah.
you don't know if it only lasts
Yeah.
for a second, but like you feel the tension that guy feels because he doesn't know who this person is or what their motives are for a second.
Yeah.
Right.
I
And
think
this
it's
is
so. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say this shares a lot. I think with my point of view on bad hair too, because it shows that a lot of the racism and stuff that they're dealing with isn't the typical type of racism you'd think with the white people oppressing them. They're getting it from their own people and their own race and stuff like that, and it's all about where they're from and because they're labeled as a refugee, things like that.
Well, they do show that too when they run into the black kids who are from London and like
Right.
they make some racist comments towards them.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like the nurse scene is one of the more impactful scenes for me, because I think it was like the first time that like you figure out that like the wife character Rial is like a shrewd person that like will do what she has to survive, and that's not something that necessarily films want to like go to. Like they want to create these like perfect characters that are always good and they are the depiction of like an asylum seeker, but like she's very clear. She's like, "Yep, no, I had these tribal scars and then I got the other tribal scars in case someone knew, and then I would be able to say I'm from this tribe, don't kill me." And that's kind of our first hint to what's going to happen later in the film, is that like they will do what they have to survive, and a lot of the time we'll look at that and say, "Oh, well, this group is doing these like bad things." And it's like, if your option is escape from country where you're killed, or flee and do whatever you have to do to survive, most people will support the do whatever you have to survive, really. But yeah, that'll take us to the kind of closer to the end of the film. But I think it's interesting.
We should roll into
Yeah.
the end, John, if you want to cue it up for us.
Do we want to like just the blanket spoiler here?
Yeah, spoiler alert.
I mean, so a lot of the uncertainty around the witch character, there's this witch that is haunting their house. It's teed up a little I mean, it's given to us pretty explicitly in a story that the wife tells the husband that she had heard, and so they've been followed, from Sudan to where, to London by this witch, but the implication is that they've done something improper or wrong, and the witch at some point, I think this is the sort of the tension building, is the witch says something to the effect of like, if you want to make this right, if you want your daughter back, you need to atone through your flesh. He says this to the husband, but it's never made clear exactly what he's done. And what happens is their reality begins to really fragment. At one point, he decides, it's effectively the beginning of the third act, he decides he's going to lock them in the house. That triggers sort of the sort of ultimate conflict between the two of them. She makes an attempt to escape, and as she escapes, she sort of escapes back into the past. And that's where we're kind of given the rest of the story. But effectively, the daughter that they have lost, and that we've seen them or thought that they had been grieving. I mean, they are grieving, but it turns out that she's not really their daughter. It's actually a young girl that they had effectively grabbed from a crowd to allow them to get onto a bus. And so now, I mean, to Adam's point,
oof. This fucking
yeah,
scene.
no, I mean,
so first,
it
but
was-
hold on. So I'm gonna be honest with you, John. I just zoned out, so I don't know what you said. But what's
I described the thing that happened.
but what's preceding this scene is to me like the most quietly powerful moment in the film, which is we see that their journey as refugees, and like it's like almost a montage where we're just seeing like day to night, like different scenes, like literally there's just like gunshots and shit blowing up all around them, and they look like zombies, like 1,000-yard stare, no urgency. just walking, and like you can see
And
they're
you get it from
you
the
can
very
see they're
beginning.
nearly dead, like, and then you're right, and then they have this moment where this dude straight up snatches this little girl from her mother so they can get on the bus.
Well, and look, I mean, to me, there's a lot of really gut wrenching scenes in this movie, but the sequence where the wife, when he first finds the wife after the attack on her school where she'd been working, I mean, I'm assuming she had been working, or maybe she was a student. She had been hiding in a cabinet. He effectively like finds her as she's like spilled out of this cabinet, and we can see this like look on her face. And this is where, you know, we've talked about how good the acting is here. The places that these actors have to go in this movie, it's almost I struggle with like, is this actually like fair to do as actor? Like it is really, really dark shit. And so she comes out of this cabinet and you see this look on her face, and it's just like this really powerful moment where, and I was really curious if we were going to get to see it or if they were actually going to leave it as is. And they actually do show you eventually what she's looking at, but it is a long moment with her and effectively her blank face. But yeah, and then to your point, Eric, that kind of like gives you the full transition, and you get to see a little bit of a slice of the sort of conflict before you get this moment where, you know, and Adam sort of teed it up, like this is a couple that is gonna do anything to like survive at this point, and what they do is just it's really, really bad.
Well,
it's like really,
it's what he
on that
does.
line where you're like, well, this might be the only way that she gets out, like that girl gets out.
yeah.
Well,
which
until you
is another
see,
like element to it.
until you see
but it is
what happens.
horrific that she is screaming "mama," and then it recontextualizes every scene
Well,
in which
because
this little
now,
girl-
John, we should point out too, like
Yeah.
I mean, the wife was there, but he's the one who did it, right? And then
No,
and then it at that point too, it contextualizes the entire, like all the tension between the two of them, the entire, right? Because you just for most of it think that they lost a child that they're grieving, right? Like, and that's
Right.
it's so
well.
it's a really
and-
wild twist.
Look, I think the real tension from them, and again, this is where the script is, I think, so tight and beautifully done, is that not only is he the one who takes this action, she then comes to sort of like love and want to protect this child, but then they have this moment on this boat where the husband effectively chooses to save the wife and not really attempt to save this young girl, which allows them to survive, to be clear, and it's unclear that they would have otherwise. So again, like they're choosing survival over. I mean, they're making the best out of, or you know, they're choosing the path of survival out of like really awful situation. But yeah, it's, you know, and she, whether or not she can ever forgive him. And then, look, this is where the whole film, where you think it's mostly about grief and trauma, it's still about those things, but it's also about, will they reconcile their relationship and be able to like build like forward. I mean, that to me is like what the ultimate twist of the film is, you know, whether or not,
I mean,
you know,
it's that, but I think another like huge element of the entire thing is that it's an assimilation versus like a rejection of your culture narrative, and I think that's what
Like,
Weeks really brings to the script. Is
one or the other.
He in his interviews he was saying that he you know, he was a London like born, but he had, you know, like previous African culture, and like it was all about like, oh well, you're gonna reject your language, oh well, people are gonna bully you if you do this, oh well, you need to, and like it is very clear every action that the husband takes is, we are here, this is our home. He like starts singing the soccer songs, he starts wearing the clothes that people wear, he starts doing all of these things, he's eating with the fork and knife, versus she is still wearing the colorful clothing, she's still doing all of the things
that scene too, where he's like, that was like a really fascinating scene where he's in the whatever European Walmart equivalent or whatever, and he's staring at the display of like all the same shirt. It's a white polo with just a milquetoast ass white dude like model painted on the wall. Dude, let me tell you, there's nothing sadder than a polo shirt.
see, that actually was a very scary scene to me, because I had the 74 pounds in my head, and I was like, holy shit, he's gonna spend 7 pounds on a shirt. Like, he's
so
gotta live the rest of this.
I immediately thought somebody was going to come over and accuse him of stealing or something.
That's the other thing is
they
you
did
can
see
see the guy in the background who is eyeing him the entire time he's doing it, and like, okay, here's the thing that blew my mind. Do you know how old that actor is, Sope? Jerisu?
Yeah. I know how old the wife is because I looked at her IMDb page, and I think it had her birthday on it.
Yeah, he's 29. He is
Yeah.
my age. That's the craziest thing I've ever, like, I was like, what? That's an old man.
I was going to say like 20, 27, 28, but yeah, that's, I mean, he's lived a life. And again, this is where like the acting, he conveys that, you know? So.
Yeah. Should we try to
Yeah.
get Casey back in? What did he?
Yeah.
Has he texted anyone or?
No, I pinged him. He's working on it.
Word.
So.
But yeah, I think I did want to talk about one of the things that I don't think it's an issue with the film, but it is interesting that like when you have that real horror, like the real horrors of life, it's almost difficult to put in that supernatural element without like the the idea of like, oh, well, the supernatural element is helping us in some way that you get from like a lot of Japanese films or some African films where it's like this idea that like, oh, well, the spirit's actually benevolent in some way. And I say that because when something is so terrifying, like an ethnic cleansing in Darfur, escaping that, like, what can you really add fantastically to scare like it's hard, and that's why I think the witch has to become that like solely representative function of like his guilt, etc.
I mean, look, it's not the scariest movie, but I feel like those elements bring it enough to give it the creepy atmosphere that it needs. And it's like it's existentially horrifying all around. Like the everyday refugee stuff. That's kind of what I'm saying. Like it doesn't feel separate. Like it's all part of the same feeling of dread, and that's kind of what makes this so successful.
Well, I actually think it's a really well deployed use of sort of genre tactics, right? Like, yeah, I mean, there's a universe, and maybe like Adam, maybe this is sort of what you were getting. Like, there's a universe where you could make a like scary or like emotionally impactful film that's like doesn't have any of the like witch stuff in it, but it's a like this movie allows us to connect emotionally and derive some type of like pleasure from the overcoming. Like if it's just a story about them overcoming, I'm not doing the best job of explaining this, Eric. I'm sorry, but
you said the word pleasure and it threw me. I'm sorry, John. That's the whole thing.
Well,
I mean, I think John's right. With like, if you think about like an Isabel Allende or like a Brief and Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde or any of these like these novels that come from South America like. Sorry, I
knew what you were talking about.
Like
smart
if
things.
You're talking about like stories from other cultures. There's this amazing ability to inject magical realism, which heightens things. So like it's really hard to talk about like something so serious, but if you add that element of magical realism, the audience can disassociate, or the audience can like feel the feelings of the visuals, as opposed to just saying, yeah, this ethnic cleansing is really sad and awful, and you don't want to watch this movie.
Well, and look, like just to be maybe even more specific about it, like the end of this movie, they kill the wife kills the witch. Like they weren't gonna like kill their grief or like kill genocide. Like it was like you have to have a manifestation, or you have to turn the bad thing into a monster that can be dealt with, and that the audience can be scared of in a discreet way that they can then enjoy the sort of the victory over it.
And they chose a happier ending than like Relic, which is another movie that we watched this year that has the same like sad haunted house through the lens of like.
Doesn't anybody just make like fun movies anymore, dude?
No, I mean they are definitely of a pair, and there's they're not the only two, but look, it's a really, I mean, even that movie, not The Arrival. What the fuck? There was the other movie we watched. This Amulet, was that it?
Oh yeah, Amulet. Yeah.
These like smaller films that deal with, let's say, like social or interpersonal issues, but through the lens of genre. Like it's a is not a new idea.
Do you guys want to collectively name drop any more of the depressing movies I've seen this year?
Oh, actually, I
or-
did have a happy movie this reminded me of, which is weird. I felt this was a lot like Housebound. I know that sounds ridiculous because that's a funny, like, silly movie, but it really does have that feeling of, like, you're under the state's watch, don't do anything stupid, places them in the house, and then there are, like, these comedic moments that I thought were legitimately very funny, like when he runs outside and like kind of does the smile at the cat lady who is like eyeing him and is a problem, like little things like that, like when they comment that like, oh, that's their queen, and he's like pointing at an old lady that's walking in the street, like little things where you're like, oh, this is like really fun, like, you know. And obviously you need it for like tension breaking because you started with some sadness, but yeah.
Well, and even when they like, you know, completely fucking destroy the house and the crew comes in to take pictures on multiple occasions. I mean, those are, again, this is where that stuff ends up not being the sort of like racial animus doesn't end up being as central but it's still there. And in that case, it's actually like levity from the reality of their lives, you know?
Oh, and how many times did every character say, their house is actually bigger than ours? Like, that really became, like, upsetting to me that was the metric, because I know people that's the first thing they would think of is like, oh, well, these, like, refugees are being put up in this hotel, and I remember that when I was in a wedding party, and, like, they literally had people that had come from Syria and were, like, escaping, like, the Alawite Revolution, and then you just straight up have, like, people being like, oh, well, they're at this nice hotel. You're like, what are you talking about?
All right, guys, this is enough serious smart stuff for now. Would you recommend this movie, Casey?
Yes, it's very well done. Just prepare yourself and be in the right mood.
Mr. Adam.
Yeah, it's fun, and I only like sad movies. Also, check out The Nightingale.
Jonathan.
Yeah, I would also recommend.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing movie. Like, do you want to watch it? Ask yourself that question, and I think you'll find the answer. How's that? All right, guys, that's going to do it for His House. Let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
Somewhere in deepest space, all hell is breaking loose.
They cut the power.
How could they cut the power, man? They're animals.
Get them out of there!
Aliens. This time, it's war. Aliens, the new movie. Rated R.
This is Diane Franklin from Better Off Dead with Bloody Good Horror.
Send feedback to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or on Twitter using hashtag AskBGH. Join Patreon to get back episodes and much more. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror.
And we're back. Can you guys get on that Slack today?
Yeah.
Adam.
I'll say no.
It got so horny today, and I think it might be my fault, John. Listen.
I tried to scroll back to see.
Listen, for people who don't use Slack every day, right? Like we've been doing this long enough with a lot of the same people, and we get new people all the time. The tough ones hang around, you know, the ones who can't hang don't. But there are different modes of Slack that have happened enough that they have been named. One of them is horny Slack, when just like all hell breaks loose and people start saying shit you would never say walking around on the street every day. I will say
hope not.
there are a few people, John, that I will call the main culprits of horny Slack that tend to keep it going. I will not name names tonight, but
It's pretty obvious if you've been up there for 5 minutes.
Let's just put it this way. I was bored today. I wasn't bored. I was trying to distract myself from work I was supposed to be doing. How's that? And I'm offhandedly this morning made the comment, I'll even take horny Slack today. And 4 hours later, everyone in Slack was taking a BDSM quiz and posting their results. We learned a lot of things about our fellow Slackers today, John.
Yeah.
How did you want to talk about, I'm sure you dipped in at some point.
No, I literally so I had a very busy day because I'm trying to be off for the rest of the week. And so I was like, I had it open and it was, constant, whenever you get a fresh Slack thing, it like lights up the icon. So I'm like constantly picking. It was one of those, like, I would click over, there's 100 new messages.
It was
I would
going
try to scroll up
all day.
and it was like, I would see like, one gross word or something, or someone yelling something at somebody else, and I'm just like, nope, scrolling down. And then somebody someone, tagged me or like used schnars in something, and I was like, oh fuck, I gotta go look at this now. And then I was going to respond, and I was like, you know what, not being drawn into this. Just gonna keep my nose out of it. So
we were doing trivia this week. We do trivia every weekend with some of the Slack people, and we had somebody on there this week who I think it was her first time on trivia, and she said that her first time on Slack, she opened it up, and it was scrolling so fast that she just was like, I can't do this. Just like left and didn't come back for a couple months. Like if you catch it the wrong day, it's probably a lot.
Yeah, it comes in waves at times.
I mean, it's a
It's
a godsend.
Not get to find out if you were a rope bunny or not, Schnars?
No, so yeah, do I need to take this quiz? I actually didn't realize.
John.
I saw people post.
John, literally nothing would make me happier than you taking this quiz. Like, I need this information. You could do it right now. It takes 5 minutes.
Well, I gotta, how far back do I have to scroll?
Listen, attention, people on Slack listening to this show right now. Everyone, please DM Schnars the link to this quiz. Please.
I feel like Joe would just be like, "This was a useless quiz. I already know my sex list."
John, I know of at least one person out there that's gonna hook me up right now, and I'm sure there's more. So please.
Did Joe take the quiz?
No. Joe stopped in to be Joe and get really upset that I posted my results when I've literally listened to his disgusting stories for fucking 10 years.
Joe's would just be like Christmas and Feruza Bulk. Is there a list?
I'm sorry he's offended to know that I'm a switcher, John, but life can't all be about one thing, okay? Like sometimes you need variety's the spice of life.
I will commit to taking the test. I am not committing to sharing my results. That's all I'll say. So.
You're gonna share them with me, or what the fuck? What are we doing here?
All right. I guess we'll find out.
How long have we been lovers, John?
I'm 95% an experimentalist today, and I'm okay with it.
It's just that like right. Joe is so indignant. I'm like, are you kidding me, Joe? A month ago, he was torching me for not having a cool enough favorite movie sex scene, but now it's too much. But I have to hear about how he doesn't wash his feet on the regular,
which is a very sexual thing.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it would be if he washed his feet, Adam. I don't know. Did you take the quiz? Did you take the quiz, Adam? Was there eye patch stuff on there?
No, literally what I did was I posted that my thing was Victorian pining, and that distracted everybody long enough.
You know what? I did see that, and I appreciated your joke. John, do you have the quiz yet?
Hold on.
Check your Slack, dude.
I don't keep Slack open during the show because it's very distracting. Yeah, I got it.
Of course. How many people sent it
Multiple people. Not that many.
Yes. I love all of you who sent that to John. Thank you very much. All right, guys. info@bloodygoodhorror.com. Quite the day, John. Just so horny on Slack. Let's see. Oh, before we get to that, Adam. Speaking of horny stuff, you do a bunch of podcasts. Do you want to talk about that or stuff?
Sure.
Tell people about your stuff.
Horny stuff.
Tell people about your
horny stuff.
Horniest things.
Yeah, so I have Thor's Hour of Thunder is a show I do with a bunch of people from the Slack community. It's very fun. They're doing the Blob tonight. I had to miss it. It's the 1958 Blob where Steve McQueen's trying to pretend he's a teen. So that was fun. I think I have one with Andrew coming up on Triassic Park is his show, and he's doing one about King Kong and the law, so I'm going to be talking about that. And I have a fun secret project coming up that I'm doing with Valeska that's super fun. So watch for that. And then finally, if you wanted to check out In Extremis on Bloody Good Horror, I recently wrote an article about how the parents in the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown are neglectful and would have their kids taken away.
Oh, I mean, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Where are those
It
kids'
was
parents?
the darkest and funnest
Adam,
article.
that one kid is all dirty. Like, who is bathing that child? He's
I
so
didn't-
dirty.
I didn't even get to 10.
He's so dirty. He has stink lines coming off of him. Like, what was happening?
Maybe he can't help the stink, Eric.
Well, I've met
Maybe it's a genetic
I've met
condition.
people like that too, but I won't get into that. You're not one of them, Casey. I've met people who you literally couldn't stand within 10 feet of them. Like, I'm just saying,
Well,
it's
I'm
not.
glad you don't think I'm one of the stinky people.
Well, you sounded self-conscious. That's why I was.
Oh no,
letting you know.
I'm very self-conscious of my stink. I take care of it.
Yeah. You can rub your
I
stink
can
on
handle being the
anything,
big guy. I don't want to be the big stinky guy.
I feel you, bro. info@bloodygoodhorror.com. First up, Alyssa, who runs our book club. Hello. We're almost through the month, and we've been working on spooky historical fiction The Hunger by Alma Katsu, based on the harrowing story of the Donner Party. That sounds fun. I'm excited to announce our next book club, Hark, The Herald Angels Scream. Incredible name. A collection of holiday-themed short horror stories put together by Blumhouse, of all things. I'm ready to get in the spooky Christmas spirit. See, I'm not I like Christmas. I'm not huge into it, but I could get into spooky Christmas. That sounds cool to me. As always, we can be found on Goodreads under the BGH name, and we're on Twitter @BGH Book Club. Keep an eye out for something fun coming soon. Follow up. Here's the fun thing. There is a BGH Winter Reading Challenge happening. Sign-up forms will be posted on Wednesday. There are 10 categories, and entrants may choose any 5 to fill. Those who complete at least 5 books will be entered into a raffle to win a prize. This better be a personal pan pizza, is all I'm saying. I don't know if Adam gets that. I don't know if... Did they have that in Canada, Adam? Do they have Book It in Canada?
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't look like this without Book It. I read a lot of books.
It's called Book It, eh?
I did not read books.
Yeah.
I faked a lot of book reports to get free pizza, but that's just the way I am.
Eric, this quiz is way too long for me to be taking it during the
Well,
show.
do
I'm
it
sorry.
after, John, and get cozy and
Ay.
get some wine and dig into
I
yourself.
I clicked on take the short version, and
It's
it's like
long. It's long.
15. Yeah, it's very long.
John, 50 people on Slack today found the time to do it in the middle of their work days. I think you can handle it at some point.
John, your kink
your
is not
social security
easy.
Your job is not that important, and it's Thanksgiving week, okay? I
Fair.
know you're not doing shit this week. All right. Next up, Jesse. The worst thing anyone said about my hair is me, because I saw the back of some guy's head on a gas station CCTV once and thought, check out that guy's bald spot, before realizing it was me. Guess I don't see the back of my head often, and I am also stupid.
That's harsh.
I kind of felt this. Like, there is that moment when you see it for the first time, you're like, huh, okay. Like, you got to take, you have to take it in for a second, and I feel like how well you take that in says a lot about you.
See, I've had that same reaction because my hair has gotten so long and gorgeous. I caught it one time, and it was like, wow, who is that incredibly
You
handsome
got aroused by
kid
yourself
that
and then had to
was-
deal with
Yeah.
that. Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it, dude.
So,
See, I got with all the quarantine hair, I got the opposite problem.
You
It
can just
covers up
cover
my
it.
bald spot.
Yeah, exactly. I feel you, dude. Listen, man. It's all about self-love, buddy. Next up, Caitlin. Since I was thinking of it at a restaurant today, what is everyone's feelings about... Oh, this is a good question. About couples sitting next to each other at restaurants. I hate seeing it. Be an adult and sit across from each other and speak face-to-face like grown-ass bill-paying adults. Why do you have to be touching constantly? It's idiotic and a huge pet peeve to see. What do you all think? Hoping Joe is on my side. He probably would because he's a fucking psycho. But this is really interesting. What do you guys think? I have an answer, but I'm curious.
If
about
I
I'm
like
on a
that they
date,
got
if I'm on a
shot
date,
on Joe there, but you know.
yeah, that was nice. If I'm on a date, me and the girl, I want to be able to look her in the eye and chat as we're catching up, right?
That's kind of my thing. Like, isn't it about the eye contact? Like, how are you
Exactly.
You're not looking at each other if you're sitting next to each other? And you can
Uh,
also
so-
touch sitting across the table. Like, it's possible.
I have a
That's what-
story.
Please.
So
ahead.
the dean of our law school, like at the time that I was in school, and this other professor were married, and they used to power sit at the head of the table. So they had one chair made where they would both sit at the head of the table.
What?
And I respect it, but I also think it's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
That's pretty weird.
Listen, I'd rather see people that are weirdly close in a way that doesn't make sense to me than people who are just like waiting to die at the 99 diner.
What I would say is, if you're at a table that you're supposed to sit across from each other, like just sit across from each other. If you if it's a four-person table,
maybe
that they put you at,
maybe diagonally, I could see that because you could still kind of look at each other. Like if it's like
no, well, that's what I'm saying. Like if you're at a four-person table, like if whatever, it's a big restaurant, you're at a four-person table, you want to take two adjacent sides.
Yeah, that's
go
what
to town. Like
yeah.
that to me is fine.
Yeah, but you
If
got
it's
to
like a
figure they're
booth
talking
and you're sitting
about
on
like
the
the
same
booth.
side, like get the fuck
Yeah.
out of here. Like that's just weird.
I mean, unless it's a bar. Like okay, you're sitting at a bar. I get it.
Well, sure. Or like, look, there's like in New York, there's like all kinds of weird ass restaurant setups. Like sometimes you do end up sitting next to each other. It's like if that's what the restaurant wants you to do, all right, whatever. It's
I
not
like
that
that.
weird.
I like that question, Joe.
I
What
don't
if
have strong opinions about it, really.
Joe?
Colleen and
100%.
I are the couple that have been married for 23 years, and we're like, we don't need to touch each other all the time. We're perfectly happy having our own space.
It's down to if your feet are clean, you want to sit across from each other so you can do feet stuff
footsies.
apparently.
Feet
but
stuff.
if they aren't, you can do handies. So it's a good.
Who doesn't like some good feet stuff?
Oh,
I'm
there's nothing
hoping-
wrong with a good game of footsie.
I was hoping the BDSM quiz was going to help me resolve which side of this debate I land on, but
There's no foot questions on there, John. And well, I didn't take the long version actually, so I don't know.
Oh, all right.
Adam, this next question is going to test our friendship here, buddy. Caitlin also says, listening to Possessor, Eric's #1 movie right now, and listen to Bad Hair, and notice that Bad Hair being at 1 hour and 50 minutes caused Eric to challenge anyone to find something good at that length that shouldn't be cut down more. I'm assuming he will split hairs. You are correct. But Possessor is 1 hour and 43. Will you challenge the 7 minutes made a difference, or what say you? Caitlin and Kissimmee. She also says, Happy Thanksgiving. Look, okay. Do you know how long 7 minutes is in a movie that's too long? It's like a fucking. It's like, have you ever seen Inception? You know when they go in at the end, and they get Ken Watanabe out of the dream, and he's like 100 years old. That's what happens in that 7 minutes of a movie that's too long. Okay, so don't come at me about that. Second of all, Adam, this is what I mean by Adam is a stickler. I love you, Adam. I want to say that first off. Like, you and I are weirdly similar, but also different. Like, I like dying on hills because I enjoy it. Like, I want to get up there and I want my lawn chair and I want to just like, I'm not coming down because I'm into it. You are often right because you're really smart and you need other people to know it, and it bothers you when they won't admit it, like me. Okay, so Adam went and made a list of movies that all great movies, but I will say Caitlin's right. It is specifically 1 hour and 50 minutes. You make a 2 hour movie, boom, you're good. You make an 1 hour and 40-minute movie, sometimes you're good. You can be good at 1 hour 40 and never at 1 hour 50. The only one on there that was exactly 1 hour 50 was Taxi Driver. And I'm going to take that challenge. I'm going to watch it and I will make some time code edits of what.
Oh,
needs
you've
to be
never
cut
seen
out.
Taxi Driver?
I have, but I've never seen it in a way that.
I want to say Ratatouille's on that list too.
Yeah, and Ratatouille's too fucking long, dude.
Dude,
too
that
long.
is
1,000%.
crazy talk.
Too long.
Fucking Ratatouille is.
You could
one
cut
of
out stuff in
the
the beginning. I don't need to see all that. Let's get to the kitchen faster. This is bullshit.
Just all right. We need to move on.
I think my thing is not that it's that when somebody throws down a gauntlet,
Right. You have to take the
to
challenge.
take it.
Yes. No, that's what I'm saying. Listen, I mean this in an endearing way, Adam.
Yeah, I've ate a lot of hot wings to win a T-shirt situation.
Because
It's
someone
just my toxic masculinity.
Because someone told you
breeds.
couldn't. I love it. I love you, buddy. info@bloodygoodhorror.com. That's it for email. Who has my tweets?
I got your tweets. We have a tweet at BG Horror. Send us questions using the @AskBGH hashtag. First up, we have. Let's see here. We have Scotty81048335. Hockey hair or 80s wrestler hair?
Hockey hair, 80s wrestler. I mean 80s wrestler.
Wrestler hair's got more product, I gotta think.
Oh, it's very greasy. Yeah, they would literally just put grease into it before matches. I don't love that. I also don't love hockey hair.
I was gonna say if I forced at gunpoint,
Wait,
I'm going.
I'm gonna answer Darren's 80s hair from Slack. Anyone who's seen that knows that it is amazing.
Yeah, I definitely think it's got to be, even though this is sacrilege because Canada and hockey hair they go together. I kind of feel like hockey hair is the like wispy mustache of hair where you're like, I don't know, I didn't cut it. It kind of looks bad, but whatever. Whereas like the wrestling hair, you got a gorgeous George situation. You got like product in there. You looking fab.
It takes effort. It's a lot. Yeah, I agree.
To be fair, my only real experience as American with hockey hair is when all of them on the Satellite of Love came down with and caught hockey hair on MST3K.
I will say right now it's rank. Like I've seen a lot of people playing like basketball, some people playing like roller hockey, etc. And they've got this like hair that like they look like they're about to slam you through a table, but then also they might be a Trailer Park Boys extra. Like it's a very specific look happening.
Nice.
That's cool.
Alrighty, next up we have Tetch at TetchDM. I'm using the Ask BGH hashtag, so I'm not an asshole, right? I'd say yes, but I see no other question from Tetch. We're using the Ask BGH question, so I'm not sure what he's asking.
Guys, Joe isn't here. This is a safe space.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're not an asshole. We love you, Tetch.
You're not an asshole, but we don't know what you're asking. Next up from at Metal Prof. What's the most horrifying thing that could be released from the mystery monolith found in Utah if we crack that fucker open like a piñata? Have you guys heard this news story?
It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, like,
it's cool
what
as
is
shit.
going on? Because I saw like a headline.
So there
and
were
just
dudes
fucking
whose
jumped on.
job, I'm pretty sure, is to like, I swear to God, it said count sheep. Like they fly over these plains and like count. It's like a specific kind of animal that they are supposed to be tracking. And they saw this thing in the desert. It's like a 10 or 12 foot like steel monolith with nothing on it that they said is deeply embedded into the rock. And that's it.
And it's just out in the
And they
middle of
took
the
pictures and now
This
it's
is
viral.
this is definitely some kind of like marketing.
No,
thing, right?
there were officials commenting on it, like from the state.
Yeah. It was the Angel Moronai, and it has come again. It was always there, even though it was supposed to be in Jackson County, Missouri previously. And we all know that the Mormons put it there.
There we go. All right, very good. Like, do I need to pay any attention to this news story? I guess is the other question.
I don't know.
Not yet.
There's that other. I mean, Adam probably knows about this. There's another thing like this in America somewhere. I have not Googled it recently, but there's like a monolith thing that has a bunch of like instructions on it about like, oh god, I'm gonna look it up. It's in like 12 different languages, and it's all about like population control and like, but it's a similar thing where it's on a plot of land. It showed up. Nobody knows how it got there, and nobody can figure out who owns the land and all this shit. I'm gonna Google it.
It's owned by Jalix Owns.
I don't know what the scariest thing to come out of it. It would
here we go.
probably be the Angel
Wait, I got it.
Moron.
I got it.
So.
The Georgia Guidestones are a granite monument erected in 1980 in Elbert County, Georgia. A set of 10 guidelines is inscribed on the structure in 8 modern languages and a shorter blah, blah, blah. Yeah, anyway.
I do remember hearing about that.
Yeah, nobody knows where they came from.
Yeah.
Georgians.
It's sometimes referred to as American Stonehenge.
Probably Georgia.
So
No.
there you go. All right,
There you go.
keep going, Casey.
Cool.
All right, next up we have our good friend Skizbot. What living celebrity would you like to swap places with for a weekend, Freaky Friday style?
Living celebrity? Keanu Reeves seems cool as shit.
I mean, my answer is Chris Evans because he's got a good butt and I like his dog.
There you go.
Chris Evans is delightful. Yeah.
No, I feel like there's like I would have to like really do some research on this.
I think the best
Okay.
chance of success for me to be able to fit in with the lifestyle and everything is if I switch places with Jack Black. I got the build. They're not. I mean, it's going to be pretty easy to fit into his world.
you wouldn't be confused. That makes
Yeah.
sense. All right.
Anybody else?
Nope.
Nope. All right, last one from @ToxicDeath, who is an old listener of BGH. Haven't heard from him for a long time. If you could make everyone watch one film, what would it be from any time?
Ooh.
Everyone. Films-
Ratatouille.
Fuck you, John.
Do they have to like? Is it to make them like it, or is it just because it's funny to make
I-
someone
He didn't
watch it?
specify, just
I
something to
assume
make them watch.
like the goal here is we're gonna make the world a better place because everyone will have this one singular film reference that we can,
Yeah.
and which
In
is
that
why I'm
context-
going for Ratatouille.
In John's context, I'd say Animal House, so people can learn how to fucking laugh at themselves again.
I'm gonna say Ghoulies 3. Ghoulies go to college
There you go. The importance of
because I like
secondary
because
education.
I like to see the world burn. That's why.
I'm trying to think of the gayest movie. Now, I think it's Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, but it could be like Velvet Underground, or sorry, Velvet Goldmine.
Velvet
Like, there's
Underground.
so many movies that we could pick here. And I think it would upset a lot of
Right, I
people.
see. That's
Anything from John Waters' early career.
that's a real
Yeah.
that's a real troll pick. I
Oh,
like
yeah,
it.
Pink Flamingos it up.
There you go.
Oh God, good fucking
Pink
Christ.
Flamingos. Yeesh.
Advocate cannibalism, legalize murder, eat shit.
Okay. Oh, is that it?
And that's
That was it.
All right, guys. There's a little thing called Instagram. I gotta scroll back here. And normally Joe reads them, and he cannot seem to like form a cogent sentence, even though people have written them plenty clearly. So you guys are in for a treat tonight. First up, John. This comes in from anonymous. So, how the heck did you get so cute?
Is this directed to me or
I
just
think,
like it's
I think
just?
to the group, John.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna say genetics and clean living.
Born this way, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
The
it's-
clean living part is definitely not. accurate.
Indiana groundwater.
What? How about you, Adam? How'd you get so cute, buddy?
Yeah, I just said maybe it's Maybelline. I don't know.
Maybe it's the eye patch. I don't know.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
it's, no, it's
You
definitely
Eye patch.
definitely the eye patch. Okay, here we go. We're gonna bang through these: turkey or glazed ham.
Why not both?
Turkey. Yeah, if I have to pick one, turkey. But
Glazed
I'm
ham
with
is
Casey.
pretty good.
Just mash them together.
I actually,
turkey, I'm Jewish.
I'm going smoked ham.
Fair.
Shit's
Yeah.
good.
Smoked turkey too.
Anything
Definitely.
smoked, give it to me. Yeah. Do you read books sitting or laying down?
Laying down.
Almost
can't.
always in bed, yeah.
I will be asleep in 5 seconds if I read laying down. There's no way.
I like to sit in an old leather chair and then turn to an audience that isn't there and say, "Oh, I didn't see you there."
Best Christmas horror movie. I agree with Joe's answer here of Scrooged.
Oh,
Oh, I
Wow.
was gonna go Gremlins.
Yeah, I'm into Gremlins.
I'd switch it up with Santa's sleigh just for John.
I mean, I would say on the spectrum of Christmas to horror, Scrooge probably skews a little more towards Christmas, but it does have some pretty
Ah,
horrific
yeah.
stuff in it. Like there's
I
a
would-
literal
so-
zombie, and like it's pretty crazy.
I haven't seen Scrooged in years. I like
It's-
wouldn't even have classified it as a horror movie.
It's
now that you
one
say
of the
that.
best Christmas movies. I would call
It's
it.
a Christmas movie for sure.
It has horrific parts to it, but
Yeah, all right.
I get your point.
Has a zombie in it is like, but okay. It's like,
John.
is a Christmas Carol? A Christmas Carol has ghosts in it.
Fuck you, John.
I'm just saying.
Muppet Christmas Carol is terrifying. It's the
Yeah.
scariest horror movie.
I
Who's
do love Christmas
who has the better movies, Arnie or Stallone? I think Arnie, hands down, right?
Arnie,
Like,
I think. He's got Terminator.
The highs of Stallone are quite good.
yeah,
They're
that's fair.
quite high. But I do agree that, if you got to go end
You're
to
talking
end, it's-
depth of catalog here, like
John, I know you've been trying to get it convince us for 15 years, but Bullets Over Broadway is not going to be our favorite film.
Death Race 2000, man. No, I think if you're going like prestige, you could make a Sylvester Stallone. I mean, like he wrote a lot of Oscar nominated, like he wrote real movies. But yeah, Arnold is just like an enigma. He's so much fun. I could watch Predator or Commando forever. Just remember when I said I'd kill you last? I lied. Just forever.
yeah, dude. T2.
But I don't know. This is actually really tough.
I know,
kind
it's
of
not
need
that
to,
tough.
I
It's
might need
not.
to like do some research. on
You're
this and come
listen.
back to you.
Your Philadelphia inbreeding is biasing you.
No. Here's the thing. For every one of the Commando, I totally agree. But like Cliffhanger, have you seen Cliffhanger? It's a sweet movie.
Yeah.
Like
fair.
I just feel like it didn't hit at the right moment. Commando was a sort of
remember-
artifact of its time and place.
Do you remember when we reviewed?
Of Demolition Man.
Do you remember-
Like, it's
Demolition Man is-
ridiculous.
It's so good. It's
But
so
it's all Wesley Snipes though.
Do you
I'm a
remember-
blast from the past?
Remember when we
Yeah, yeah,
reviewed
no, he's
Maggie?
by-
Remember when we reviewed Maggie, where he plays an Idaho farmer?
no, that's the thing. I
No,
actually feel
that's
like the Schwarzenegger. I
acting.
don't know. The Stallone.
He was
if
like-
you went with the lowest end,
Maggie.
you know, Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. Have you guys seen this film? It's a
Yes.
Yeah.
all-time
Twins,
classic.
classic.
Over the Top, where it's an arm wrestling movie.
Oh yeah.
Over the top.
All right, what
Oh,
would your
God.
what would your wrestling entrance music be? For me, it would be "Bodies" by Drowning Pool.
Ooh.
I mean, something
Tiptoe
Limp
through the
Bizkit, right?
tulips.
Tiptoe through the
Oh,
tulips.
that's good.
Dude,
That scares some people.
that's terrifying. Yeah, maybe.
I assume like I would have some kind of offensively Jewish character, and I would enter to Hava Nagila. Like, I
Adam,
just
I don't think I
remember there
knew.
was a-
I don't think I knew you were Jewish until tonight.
Really?
Yeah.
There was a character named the Tax Man who literally like tried to get taxes back from other wrestlers.
It was Erwin R. Shyster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Oh
was
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
say,
yeah, yeah.
He was
So
was
he-
jacked.
So
That
fun
guy was
fact
good.
about Erwin R. Shyster, but he had that same gimmick in WCW before he went to WWE. But in WCW, he was called, oh fuck, he had a different tax-related name, and I can't
So
remember. I
good.
gotta look it up. All right, we gotta bang through these. We got a lot. Have you ever recommended a movie on the show and regretted it later?
Oh yeah.
No.
No
I
regrets.
tend to warn people.
I don't come on enough.
I go the opposite direction. There's movies
Adam's
when-
like, yeah, the two other movies
Uh,
I recommended, I regret.
Next one's some Real Housewives bullshit that I'm gonna skip. What's your favorite Thanksgiving side?
corn casserole.
This
All
is
of them. You can almost sell me on any of them at this point.
my I'm big into mashed potatoes. Also, my mom's coleslaw, which is incredible. If you put the coleslaw on top of the mashed potatoes, 10 out of 10.
That's really what I want. I want like all of them mixed together with a little turkey on top. Just
Yeah.
Yeah. And a little bit of
Stuffing.
brown gravy to top it all up.
Okay.
Stuffing and sweet potatoes. Go ahead.
Anyone have Thanksgiving beers lined up?
no, but I'm
Cool.
going shopping tomorrow.
Same.
So
We have a Canadian Thanksgiving that happened a long time ago.
wasn't it in like October?
Yeah, it's in
Yeah.
October, and it's for Sir Frederick Drake or Francis Drake,
Nice.
or in the
nice.
Northwest Passage.
Yeah. yeah.
No, I love nothing more than Canada facts with Adam. This is really relevant to our next question. Actually, it just says, "Is this Canada?" Question mark exclamation point.
Nope.
I don't.
Yeah.
Unless that's where you're at, then
I
yes,
wish.
it is.
And you're in Ottawa? How do you say it?
I grew
Say
up
Ottawa?
3 hours from Canada.
Ottawa?
I grew up 3 hours from Canada, which is from like Montreal, which is like, it's north enough to get all the cold, but without any of the benefits of living in Canada.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Nova Scotia, which is...
Adam, you're roboting pretty hard.
Oh, sorry.
Try muting and unmuting.
Your video looked great. I think it might have just been your mic connection.
Yeah, it's just,
Sorry. I am in Nova Scotia, which is like above Maine, and it's as far east as you can go outside of Newfoundland.
I like it. I like Maine. It's pleasant. What style of beer should I pick up to go with Thanksgiving dinner? I don't know, man. Whatever's gonna.
Nice pale ale. I always want something when I'm eating. I want a nice, crisp, clean, but with a little bite to it. So
No
Yeah, that's fair.
recommendation for
Like a-
Coors, the banquet
Like
beer.
a palate cleanser, John.
Yeah.
What happens? The next question: what happens if you yell "Barracuda" at the beach? I think this is a song. I don't know what this means.
Fuck, I don't
And
know.
I don't. Lucy Liu comes out and she hits her butt in the first what's it called movie
Brussels
directed by
Brussels sprouts, yay or nay?
what Brussels sprouts?
Yeah.
Yay.
Yay, but they
Nay.
have to
Yeah.
be roasted, and you got to burn the shit out. Like they have to be like charred.
Yeah. I mean, there's like better ways to prepare Brussels sprouts, but in general, like I will eat them.
Eh,
Like you can't boil
I'll
them.
go broccoli instead.
Stuffing,
Look,
It was
with
a
cheese.
yay or nay question. You're not answering the question.
stuffing
I
or
guess.
dressing.
Stuffing.
I don't know the
Stuffing.
difference. What's the difference?
What's the difference?
It's a different name for the same thing.
But is it
Okay.
stuffing actually goes in it, right? Is that what it is? Like
No one actually does that anymore. I
no,
don't
my
know
mom
that-
does.
my mom does.
My mom cooks it in the bird.
Dries the, but it's not you like it's dries
John,
the bird out.
do you want to text her and tell her that? I'm just fucking telling you what she does, dude. I'm not
I'm gonna
arguing
just tell
with
my
you.
mom to go after Schnars.
Hey mom, just to let you know, I know you got plans already, but John says do not put that stuffing in that bird, please.
I'm just telling you, if you follow the chefs on the Instagram,
Listen.
which I know you all do,
John-
I'm pretty sure they'll tell you not to do
John,
that.
Kathy Newell cooks all fucking day, okay? She can put that stuffing wherever she wants. All right? She's a saint.
She should get on Instagram and tell people, motherfuckers, you're doing it wrong. It sounds like this is a good outcome.
That's it.
Oh, good. All right.
That's Instagram. At least the ones I choose to
Hey,
read.
Tell Kathy Newell to hit me up if you need cooking tips this week.
I'm
The
not
only
letting...
thing I know about stuffing is the plain nonsense.
John, with that
They
hair...
say you stuff the turkey full of popcorn, and when its ass blows off, you know it's done.
John, with that hair, I'm not letting you anywhere near my mom, okay, buddy? info@bloodygoodhorror.com is the email address. We are also on Patreon if you want to stream a live version on video of the show every week. You want back episodes. You want access to Horny Slack. Everything your heart could ever desire is at patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. Don't forget the book club. We're on book reads. And yeah, man, we hope everybody has a really great and safe Thanksgiving. Don't be stupid is my last message on this show. And I think you know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
John.
I trusted everyone to not be stupid already, so
I
didn't feel like I
trust
had to say it.
fucking no one in 2020 to not be stupid, John. So there you are. That's going to do it for his house and our show. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And we'll talk to you next week.
See yous.
Bye.
Bye-bye.